read this time of semester, but being a part of this department, this is an opportunity to give you some more reading. But anyway, this is really helpful stuff. This is a piece in the Wall Street Journal entitled "College Advises Students Ditch the Selfies." Ditch the selfies, and you'll see what it's saying. It's not talking about the selfies that you'll put up, and tweet and all that. What they're talking about is that the number of LinkedIn accounts that people will do a selfie, which usually 99.9% of the time are horrible, and they'll post those. So we're going to be talking about that as well, because you all being in the PR business understand that you've got to make a good presentation of yourself and all that. Well, first of all, to get started, how many of you are on LinkedIn? You can just raise your hand. Okay. For those of you not, so the rest of it's like, oh, gee. Well, don't worry. This is not, I hate those type of conferences you go to, and in fact, I never forget my very first class here as a freshman. I had accounting. I'm not sure how many of y'all have had accounting here. Beth, I know you have that. And oh my gosh, it was a class, your first semester as a freshman, you're kind of terrified as it is. And the professor, we had about 40 in this room, and the professor asked how many had accounting in high school. I swear to you, 39 of the 40 raised their hand, okay? And I didn't know enough to say, holy cow, I'm dropping this class, you just didn't do that. And then he asked, well, how many have had this textbook? 39 of the 40 had that textbook in high school. And so, and we had to raise our hand, and of course, by the time you got to the third, how many have had this book for 3 of your 4 years in high school? And, still the majority had it, and I was one of those the whole time where, people start kind of looking like, there's something wrong, apart. So if you're not on LinkedIn, that's okay. Don't worry, because I really want to try to start at the very basics and build up. And guys, for those of you who've had me in class before, you know that I love interaction. For those of you who've not had me in class, do not feel afraid to speak up. Okay, it's only the first couple of times that I get aggravated, but after that, I'm pretty cool. I'm just kidding, but seriously, this is very interactive. So make sure you ask questions. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Okay. So if you leave here and you go back to your apartment or dorm room and say, gosh, I really wanted to ask Mark that, but I was afraid to ask. Right now, just blow that out. Whew, you'll be okay. All right? Everybody all right? Okay. All right. Well, I've pulled up my account, and not that, by any, measure that, you have to do just this, but I will tell you one of the things that I oftentimes hear from people who are getting ready to graduate. By the way, who all in here graduates in May? All right. Who all next December? Who all plans to graduate? All right. Okay. Well, all right. I saw a couple hands. I'm really sure. All right. We need to talk. Anyway, so eventually, all of you will be seeking employment. Okay, and becoming very wealthy. You never can start too soon, though, by developing your page. And the one thing I oftentimes hear is, well, I really don't have a lot to say at this point. I'm a student. I don't know how to describe myself. I don't have much of a profile. Listen, everyone's got a story. Everyone has a story, and you just have to be very succinct with it. And we're going to be getting into all of these aspects. Now, I will tell you guys, I hate to say you need to probably take some notes, but it's probably a good thing to just jot down things just as a reminder. And even though I'm kind of old school on that, there really is some science behind taking down notes. Simply because when we take them down, we have a tendency to remember it a little bit better. So don't worry, there's not going to be a quiz. Okay. Well, let's start at the very top. Even though this is not that attractive here, it's the best that I've been born with. But it is important it is very, very important that you have a quality photo. Now, one thing that you will see on the piece from LinkedIn, and I find this kind of odd because you know, they're by and large the ones who fight against this, and yet they present this piece as if your photo, be cool about it, just take your photo and have a nice solid background. Guys, that's okay, but I'm going to take exception with them on that. Employers now are the vast majority now are tending to go to a LinkedIn site before they even go to your resume. Okay, so that's how important this is. In many ways, this is now your online sales piece. There was an editorial, and this has been probably about a couple of years ago, that was in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, and the editorial was, if you're not on LinkedIn, do you really exist in the world? Now, think about that. And they weren't saying it to be kind of a funny. I mean, they truly were serious about that. Again, in the same newspaper, Atlanta Journal-Constitution, of the public relations positions or communications-related positions that they had advertised for during a particular year, they did an observation. They found that 98% of all employers expected those who were applying to already have a LinkedIn profile and to have a good basic knowledge of social media. So you can see how important this is. LinkedIn is currently the #1 social media service in the world for business professionals. #1. The numbers just are vast, and it continues to grow. There's really no slowing down with it. Some have, and it tends to be those who aren't on it, just will say, well, isn't that nothing more than an electronic Rolodex? And for those of you who don't know what a Rolodex is, I'm going to be showing my Michael. It's just we know. It's just a way to keep names, phone numbers, email addresses, and a website. Well, that's not what LinkedIn does. Even though you can get that, obviously that's an important part of what it is so much more. So let's start here at the photo. It is vitally important that you have a very good photo of yourself. Do not take a selfie. Why? Why shouldn't you take a selfie if you're going to put it up here on LinkedIn? Anybody want to take a guess? Okay, no one takes a guess. Okay.
You look too good. You look too good.
You look too good. Well, maybe so, but there's you try holding out a camera from you. What happens? Sometimes you'll have a little bit of the shake or whatever, and it'll be fuzzy. You want as clear a photo as possible.
Plus, they don't like the look of the bathroom stalls behind you.
Exactly, that's right. Bathroom stalls and shaky faces, the two no-nos right there. So you've got to make sure, guys, that if you've got if you have an iPhone, it's perfectly fine to take your profile picture using an iPhone. I mean, the DPIs that you get on those shots anymore are just as good as almost a regular 35mm camera. But have one of your friends take it for you. Okay? Consider the background for your photo. Now, I had this taken in my office, and I've got a solid wood cabinet in the background, so it gives a bit of a tone of what I want. So think about your background. Try to stay away from walls this color. You want to have something that will bring out a nice warm glow about yourselves. Include that glow right there. Put me back up here. Okay. All right. In terms of title, one thing I would strongly encourage you all not to do is to describe yourself as student. Okay? Student. Do not use student. At this point, you can use your major You could say, public relations major, Eastern Kentucky University, communication studies major, so forth, so on. You kind of get the point. The reason for that is that people, as they are looking, glancing through, see who's who and who's what, there's a bit of a negative just to put down student. But you want to be a little bit more focused to tell people who you are, what you are, and kind of the direction that you're going. So as you all are preparing your profiles, I would recommend that you use something that would be more directly tied to your major. And if you have a minor, then you could say, something like public relations major with a minor and then obviously add in the institution where you are. So, all right. Any questions about that? Yes, Aaron.
So for us, about to graduate in May, June, we're job searching, we're no longer a student, what should we put?
Well, here
We
again,
still put our major?
I would put, unless you are going into it, now you're among the lucky few who've already got a job that you're getting ready to go into, and there are some cases, if somebody has been hired, if you do have a job lined up and you say you don't begin until May or June, then to that end, I know it's not necessarily what you were asking, but what I would recommend is contact that employer and say, I'm in the process of building my account. Would you have any problem if I put that in there? And typically they wouldn't. And the reason being is that that's one more way that pleases them, because they see in some ways that you're putting a stake in the ground saying, I'm coming your way. But to go back more specifically to what you said, Aaron, I would here again encourage you to just stay with the major that you are. Yeah, but you're right, stay away from student. You do not want to use the S word, student. Okay. All right, yeah,
Would
Rebecca.
you discourage us from saying like PR professional or something like that if after we graduate?
That's another thing you can do. Yes, that's an excellent point. After you graduate, and if you still are looking, then for your title, you can be specific as to what you want to be. I mean, you may say something like special events coordinator, anything along that line. One thing I would encourage you all not to do though, and it's just Mark's pet peeve. It drives me nuts when I see somebody, particularly on Twitter, describe themselves as a social media expert. Now, guys, 10 years ago, that would have been cool, because, a lot of this was starting to evolve. Today, there's the expectation that you're already there. I mean, that would be like, in my Twitter saying, writer. Well, after 30 years, I hope I've written something, so please do not put down social media expert. As you describe yourselves, now there will be a space though on down where it'll ask for your skills and all that. That'll be perfect, and we'll get into that in just a minute. So, yeah, glad you brought that up. Any other questions? Good questions so far. Okay. Yes.
I was at a conference, and one of the speakers suggested for people of color that it is okay to go ahead and use an avatar. Because sometimes, unfortunately, when people are screening, that picture will sometimes automatically, they won't even get to the summary, they'll bypass it. What do you think?
I would disagree. I would respectfully disagree with them on that. First of all, if there's an employer who's got some real issues with that, then they've got some issues. When somebody sees me, I've actually had it said that from those who are senior professionals, if you've been in the work and your hair may start thinning a little bit. Mine's just started thin. That some may say, well, that person's already at the end of their career. Let's don't hire them. Don't put a picture up. Here again, I disagree, because I think that it's best that you say, this is who I am, what I am. And for those who, you come in and they know who you are, then, if at the rate. But if they've got some issues, then I would stay away from them anyway. So that's just me. So, okay. Good questions. Guys, is it a little hot in here? I may need to open that door, Mark. It's a little bit. A lot of hot air. A lot of hot air when I'm speaking. Yes.
Excuse me, can you maybe zoom in a little bit on it, like make some folks like plus, so it's easier for you?
Well, I am a PC person, and
Manzi.
somebody's going to have to come up here and help me on that. So if somebody is a Mac expert,
No, I mean,
Here,
you
control.
okay, it's okay, I'm not control.
wow, now you've got me full blown. Wow, that's pretty scary. That is pretty scary. Do not trust that guy. Wow. Woo.
That's hard.
Yeah, well, remember you asked for it, so, yeah. Let's get off that picture quick. All right, now, guys, it's very important in LinkedIn you don't skip any section. I mean, there are a lot of wonderful sections of information that is asked for. Do not skip a single section, even if that means you have nothing more than a sentence or two to add. Your summary is simply that. I mean, it's an overview of you, of your interest. It is in many ways the proverbial elevator pitch. You know, if somebody's going to talk about, you know, if you're out there to sell yourself, how would you describe yourself? Okay. Now, as you can tell, the way I have chosen to write this is almost like a third party individual speaking about me. Okay. You don't see pronouns like I or anything along that line. And I've actually, in reviewing some people who've been in this work for several years, who tend to use, you know, I am this, or I have been involved with this, I tell them that too comes across as a bit unprofessional, particularly in LinkedIn. Here again, even though everyone knows that you're the one who's writing it, you want this to be packaged in a way that it sounds like that you are having someone to endorse you here, okay? So when you write it this way, it also makes it very easy that if you're going to apply for a job, or if you're going to be presenting at a conference, or anything that's going to involve maybe somebody to recognize you in a way, it's easy for them then to pull this information off, okay? So don't use pronouns like I and all that, but write it as if somebody was writing about you, okay? Does that make sense? Granted, you know, this, mine's a little bit longer because I've been doing this for a couple of years. There is somewhat of an argument out there, you know, as to whether you should take up the full amount of space that LinkedIn gives you to write your summary, or if you should kind of back off and write maybe a paragraph or two. You know, my feeling is when LinkedIn gives you, it's like Twitter. Twitter gives you, you know, 140 characters, you use 140 characters. If LinkedIn has given you X number of characters to use, then try your best to go to the maximum. With this caveat, don't pontificate. That's your big word for the night. I mean, don't just continue to go on and on and on, basically saying the same thing. So make sure that before you post anything, you know, write out a draft. Write out a draft. I do this, and you can actually do the draft online here before you post it. But even if once you get your profile up and you've had a chance to review it and you go, oh, I didn't mean to say it that way. LinkedIn is very flexible about editing your content. And if anyone here edit, for those of you on LinkedIn, any of you all ever edit any of your content? Well, it's pretty easy, isn't it? I mean, you just, when you get up here to the top, and that button, and then you go right into the content, and then when you're done, guess what? Done editing. Okay. So anyway, this is the link that I go on my profile. So I take the full usage of it. Another one of the great tools about this is, on one hand, you can see people that you may know. People you may know. Now, guys, this right here, if there's nothing else besides knowing you put a nice picture up, you've got to promise me that you will abide by what I'm going to tell you. When you're connecting with somebody, do not just do a generic pull up somebody, click. LinkedIn will give you a nice little deal where it'll put the person's name in and says, I would like to, or I think it says I'd like to add you to my professional LinkedIn connections or something like that, and then it'll have your full name at the bottom. Guys, do not do that. It is called, there's a really important word that I think that all of us by now in public relations have learned, and it is this word. Say that together with me. Personalization. You know, I will tell you all that, now first of all, I kind of have a rule. Anybody who is an Eastern student or an Eastern graduate, you're an automatic connection. So I'm going to support you, okay? So right now, tonight, if I don't have you as a LinkedIn connection, I'm going to test you to see if you do it right. You know, send it to me, and I will connect, and you know, we'll begin the journey there together. But it's really important that when you start building your network, that you be very meticulous in when you contact somebody, how you are going to sell yourself. Now, I'm going to use, Michael, I'll use you as an example. Let's say the two of us have been at a conference together. We didn't know each other until our conference, and we've had coffee together. For those of you who know, I do like coffee. I have like 3 20-ounce cups a day, so yeah, slow down.
I hate coffee, but that's okay.
Okay, well, all right.
Well, you drink coffee, I'll drink milk.
Well, there you go. Let the good times roll. So he has his milk, I have my coffee, and before, and here's a little trick, guys. Before he has a chance to forget who Marc Whitt is, I will send him a LinkedIn invitation. Okay, and I will say. And then I actually will personalize it. You know, I would say, you know, Michael, it was great meeting you today. Look forward to continued, discussions or some kind of personalization that way. And then I'll sign it, Marc. I typically do not use Marc Whitt unless it's some. I mean, they already see this from Marc Whitt. But I like the informal way of just using my first name for that. And has that worked? Well, let's see. Hang on here. I think it's on the profile. Hang on. Yeah, here we go. Has that worked? Okay, that's how many connections I've got. I've got 3,251 connections on LinkedIn, resulting in nearly 40,000 people that I have some type of either direct or indirect relationship with. And I will tell you that one of the things that's important about this, and I'm not saying that necessarily go hoo-hoo, but it takes time to build that network. And I will tell you, if like today, and it was kind of, I don't want to say I was anti-UK, but I got 3 upcoming graduates from UK. One had no photo at all, and the other 2, I mean, they just sent me this generic invitation. I don't know what their interest is. I don't know if they play trumpet like I do, or if they want to go to see the Lexington Legends play baseball. I don't know what they want. Only thing I know was they didn't even take the time to say, in real brief, this is who I am, this is why I would like to connect. Now, I will tell you, if I get somebody who takes the time to write that with me, I connect with it, because I see that they care. Guys, I will tell you, that is a lot of people miss that. A lot of people miss that. So other than the photo, please, as you start building your network, make sure that you take all that wonderful personalization knowledge that you've learned in classes and apply it to this, because it does work. Now, let me tell you a couple of really neat things about that. There was the editor of the leading, well, she actually oversees higher education for the largest newspaper, both print and online, in London, England. Okay? And I saw that she had a piece on LinkedIn, said something to the effect, I'm looking for a group of higher education chief PR officers at the UK's, University of Kentucky, United Kingdom, who oversee PR on a UK campus, either in Ireland, Scotland, or England. Please send me your contact information so I can begin this network. Well, I could have done one of two things. I could have said, well, that's awfully nice for the people in United Kingdom. Good luck. Or be aggressive with it and say, could there be perhaps an opportunity here? So she didn't know me from Adam. So I contacted her, told her who I was, that I would like to connect with her. Well, she connected back with me. So as soon as she did that, I wrote her back, thanked her for the connection. Guys, it's important you do that when people have connected with you. Thank them, because I'm telling you, and these are just kind of basics, but I'm telling you, you all will stand out so much more when you simply say thank you. We live in a world where there's not a lot of people who express gratitude, and when you do, you're going to naturally stand out among the masses. So anyway, I wrote her back, thanked her, and I said, I noticed you had posted this about looking for chief PR officers on college and university campuses in the UK. And I forgot what else I said. She writes me back, and she said, yes, and I love this. I wish I had somebody in the States to turn to. Do I see a witness? All right. I wrote her back, and I said, you do now. So guess what? I've now become the eyes and ears for American campuses for this lady who's the editor for the Higher Ed Beat in London, England. And the reason I say that, guys, it's not necessarily because, here again, wow, that's pretty neat, Mark. You all can be doing the same thing yourself, okay? So it's just a matter of playing it right, being observant, making sure that when you do your invitations to people, that you invite them the correct way. Any questions on that? Guys, I'm telling you, that is, please do not overlook that. Because there are so many LinkedIn accounts that people have missed that opportunity. That is low-hanging fruit opportunities for each and every one of you. And if you start building your network, all right, okay. So when you meet somebody, you introduce yourself, right? Okay. After you introduce yourself, then they become what? Part of your what? Network. Okay, good. All right. I know, it's a lot of pieces. And then after you build your network, you then develop what? Okay. Those steps are critically important in our work. A lot of times people stop here. Say, well, I introduced myself. enjoy that glass of milk, you know, and they leave it there. Or they'll go to this and say, well, I've got them on LinkedIn now. I guess I don't need to bother anymore with them because, you know, if you know, I've got them stored away somewhere. Guys, it's going from here to here that's going to make the difference for you for LinkedIn. It's trying to find ways to maintain relationships. And you may be saying, "Gosh, Mark, that the number of connections you have, how do you do that?" Well, I'll tell you, whenever you connect with somebody on LinkedIn, I'll go back to the home, and you do updates, all the people who you've got in your connections are right here, okay? And you can just, you can congratulate them on a new job. You can share an article you saw that you liked. I'll tell you about another one. When we had the First Lady here, there were some incredible contacts that we were making that I don't think I would ever have again in my career. I mean, we had 35 national media outlets that were here for commencement when the First Lady was here, plus the fact we were dealing with Fox News, CNN, Gannett, USA Today, the BBC, and a few other. And I think there was maybe one from the Middle East that were covering that. Well, I've got them on my LinkedIn now, and as a result, it's starting to build connections, with them as well. Case in point, a couple of days ago, and y'all may anybody watch the Today Show? I'm hoping and praying this works. My son, who some of you all heard, is suffering this week in New York City with Mass and Symbols Choir, and one of the ladies who I had initially contacted about a couple of years ago, not because the First Lady was coming, but we had connected. She was the bureau chief for NBC News out of Chicago. So every now and then, I'd be feeding her, the cream of the crop type stories at Eastern that I really thought that, pitching that she would have an interest in. Well, we go through the First Lady, work very extensively together. So when I knew that the choir, not even related to Eastern, was going to be heading to New York, and they have a plan to tomorrow morning to go to be on the Plaza area, I didn't realize some of the people who used to be at the Today Show that I had contacts with had left about a year or so ago, so I didn't think I had anybody. Well, I contacted her, just kind of clear blue, and she wrote back and she said, "Mark, I've got a brand new job. I'm now the producer for the Today Show." It's like, yeah, So last 2 days, she and I and there's the Plaza producer. There's actually a producer who does nothing but make sure that all the crowd around the plaza is doing the right thing. I'm hoping and praying it works, but they wrote back and they said, make sure, my son's going to kill me for this, make sure that they're, on site at 6 a.m. and we're going to try to work them in. They already had the day lined up. But guys, the reason I'm telling you that, and I hope you're seeing, it's all about that whole networking and then building those relationships, and LinkedIn is perfect with that. Another aspect, any other questions about that before I move on? I don't want to bore you all here, but I want to try to fill you all with as much as possible. Okay, there are some new profile information you can see. I mean, you can see, who, how you're looking, number of contacts that are, these are individuals the last couple of days who've been, checking in. Hey, there's Nick. Yeah. So that kind of gives you a little bit of an idea. This is great for you all, because then when you see somebody is starting to follow you, guess what you can do? You can write them back and say something, if you don't feel like it's awkward, because they know they would expect you to write back. Now, I don't write back every single person who I've noticed has checked out my profile, but if I do sense that there's somebody that I'm trying to reach, or if somebody has visited my profile more than once, then I will write them back, and I'll try to make that connection with them. Okay. And then another thing that is pretty neat that they've added is your profile strength. The more you build on your LinkedIn, it will show you how strong your site is. And so this will help you personally as you're beginning to build that up. Okay. And then add your experience. One of the things, everybody know Sarah? Yeah, there's Sarah. One of the things that LinkedIn has just recently added is that you can, in addition to adding content, is you can add video. So if there is something that you all have produced, video-wise, if there is something maybe that you, maybe one of the TV stations in Lexington interviewed you, for something or whatever, then this is a great place for you to put that up. And so I would invite you, as many projects that you all have in the Department of Communication, I'm sure that you've had something audio-wise or video-wise that you all can put up. Recommendations. Any questions about that, by the way, guys? If I'm going too fast, please let me know. Aaron, how much time did you say? Was it up till about 11, 9?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as I was on by midnight.
Okay, by midnight. Okay, I do want to be respectful. All right, it's 5:45. I want to rush through here. We can ask some questions. Guys, right now, make sure that you begin putting together a list of people who can provide recommendations for you. These are people, these are people who, this is really, really important. If there are 2 or 3 people, 4 or 5 people, heck, 100 people who you feel know you both as a person and perhaps as an aspiring professional, go to LinkedIn and request that they provide a recommendation for you. And then you get a chance, once they have drafted that, so you don't get surprised by anything, you get a draft of that recommendation before it's posted. You actually have the power to be able to post that recommendation once they've written that. Okay? So think of right now, maybe 3 to 5 people who would provide an excellent recommendation for you. And as stupid as this is going to sound, I will tell you, I've seen this. Please do not have a member of your family to write your recommendation. Now, I know that sounds crazy. I kid you not, though. I was on a few sites. Now, that is unless, even if you work for your family, you've got to be really careful. But you got to be really, just kind of stay away from that stuff. Yes?
My mom keeps endorsing me for stuff on LinkedIn, and so I don't know how to tell her, stop, I guess, or that's awkward. It bothers me though,
She might be able to one her.
Yeah, she's like, one day she went through there and she messaged me, she's like, yeah, I need to update this stuff. I'm like,
You're
you done it
marvelous,
for me.
you're
It doesn't
super.
matter. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know how to tell her to quit.
And
I feel like that's bad because some things, just where I'm newer to LinkedIn, I've only been on there like a year or so, and it's like,
And that
some
really
of the
will
things
stick
she's
out.
the only person that endorsed me for it, and I'm just like, that just looks like you just got on, even though I do know about these things, it looks like you just got on here, like, my baby,
what you can do is you say, Eastern's PR guy was just giving this Bill lecture about LinkedIn, and so you can blame me.
Okay.
Now she
Okay.
emails me and says, how dare you?
Yeah.
She put me up to it.
Her picture's a selfie too, so we're about to have a long talk about
Yeah.
it, because she's got to take that down.
Yeah, you got to take those down. But be very, very careful about having family members to endorse you. Now, I have to say, if you look on mine, my oldest daughter, who was a communication studies major, I'm not sure if any of you all knew him, but she works down at the Chamber of Commerce now. She's the director of communication there. She and Marc, her husband's name Marc. Can you imagine that? I'm Marc, her husband's Marc, and his dad, Marc. Oh gosh, it's like a bunch of dogs really there, Marc. But anyway, when recently Marc started endorsing me, and I said, Marc, listen, I love you. You don't have to worry about endorsing your father-in-law. We're good, man. We're good. We're good. So, but you have to be careful of that. You really, really do. So.
I was gonna ask, would it be okay if classmates would write on there to recommend you for stuff, since you've done a bunch of class projects with them? Don't you feel like they know your work ethic?
That's right. Yeah. If you have had a class project, I mean, guys, your professors are wonderful. Here again, that's some low-hanging fruit for you to ask. Anyone who just make sure you've got a good grade in there. Ask professors that you've had who can do it. For those of you who maybe were in the meeting we had just a few days ago, when I was on that panel discussion, you may have heard me say that one of the leading reasons I was able to come back to Eastern. I know you're sitting going, well, I'm wanting to leave Eastern and I'm tired. Well, I had a career goal that one day I wanted to come back and serve the role that I am. And I made sure that from the time that I left to the time, and I still maintain connections with the faculty that I had, that when this job became available, they contacted me and said, hey, Marc, so yeah, that's really important. And now that we've got LinkedIn, you're going to have that visibly where professors who can talk about your projects. And if you have somebody that you're going to ask for a recommendation, it's okay to say, listen, like I teach I teach a couple of service learning courses here. I've had some of you all, and I'll be glad to endorse you and recommend you. But those are real life projects, So it's very competitive out there, guys. I know you've probably heard that till you're almost sick of hearing it, but it is very competitive. But if you can take the projects that you have done from your undergraduate and be able to share those and have faculty who oversaw those projects, boy, that's really, really strong. Yeah, Mike.
I have a general rule. It's like, as long as there's potential for a person to be a student of mine, I won't friend them on Facebook. But how would you approach it as far as LinkedIn is concerned?
LinkedIn, I think, is a little different for me. Usually what I will do on Facebook, Twitter, I've got a Twitter. By the way, I invite you all to follow me on Twitter. And you'll notice, for those of you who already follow me on Twitter, my photo is the same on Twitter as it is on LinkedIn. Why is that? Why would I intentionally do that?
Your brand.
Yes, that's exactly right. As bad as this is my brand. This is part of my brand. Okay, this is part of my logo, so to speak. And when people are trying to find me, if there are, that's what I try to do. If somebody follows me on Twitter, I try almost immediately. I try to find a way to invite them to connect with me on LinkedIn and vice versa. So that's what you all, another way to network. So don't just, follow somebody on Twitter, they happen to follow you back. Go the next step further. Here again, it's about, these three things here: introducing, networking, and building that relationship. So that's what I do automatically, and I always use the same photo. So make sure that if you also have a Twitter, try to match up your photos on that. And I'm a little different on Facebook. The way I do on Facebook, if I've had, typically if I've had a student that I know that I'm not going to have in class anymore, then I'm fine with that. So right now you all would see my wonderful profile photo on Facebook with this big giant pink pig that we had a band over the Center of the Arts. It was great, and they had this big flying pink pig. And so I had it, it's kind of weird, it's kind of a goofy side of my nature, but anyway. But I'm not going to put that up on LinkedIn or Twitter. So, and then here, positions, volunteer experience and causes. Guys, I'm sure that nearly every one of you have had some major work that you could put in this category. Anything that you have done, if you have been an officer for, you know, say PRSSA, for a fraternity, sorority, you know, music, you know, whatever, this is a great place to add that. And I will tell you that a lot of employers will go down to this and take a look at this, because they're going to see just how involved you have been. Okay? Here again, it's important that you fill in all the blanks. Okay, I'll get on down here. Causes you care about. This was added by LinkedIn a couple of years ago, but this right here, you know, tells people, you know, basically the types of things that I'm looking for. Organizations that I support, you can add that in there. And that doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, on organizations you support, this may be, you know, for, you know, fraternities and sororities, you can put that in there. Here again, you know, you may put PRSSA. There may not be the specific EKU chapter information, but there is a national connection that LinkedIn would pull up, so that kind of gives you a nice national look. Here we go with the skills and endorsements. I'm looking to make sure my wife hasn't put those in there. Now you say that. But anyway, that kind of gives you an idea. Anything that you all have written and maybe had published, you can go through that. Your education. Please, by all means, you know, make sure you fill out completely where it says activities and societies. Believe it or not, a lot of students leave that out. They don't bother with it. And you know, here again, guys, this is another way to sell yourself. So you know, make sure you fill all that in. And then any kind of awards or honors you might have had. And then down below are just, you know, the recommendations that you've pulled up. Okay. There are also, one other thing I'd like to mention to you all before we go for some questions, are groups. This is another really great way for you all to network. There are, I think there's like a max, yeah, I'm at the maximum. You can join up to 53 groups on LinkedIn, and I'll just show you a few of the groups that I belong to kind of give you an idea. Well, I won't go through all these, but this kind of gives you an idea of some of the groups that are out there. Now, why would joining a LinkedIn group on top of all this other be important, you think?
So that other people in those groups see your face and kind of recognize
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And guys, if you're going to join one of these groups, make sure that you do it in a very consistent and frequent way. I mean, there's a lot that you can share. There's a lot that you know, there may be a thought or an idea that you'll want to post. Whatever you do not post something like this. And this goes for Twitter too. Now, you may say, well, gosh, Mark, that's kind of goofy. But I'm telling you, you all would be amazed how many people post that kind of stuff just simply because they don't have anything to say. So make sure that if you're going to post something, and it doesn't have to be something that, you know, that as soon as you post it, you hear, you know, a clap of thunder and a lightning bolt comes out and you know, and you know, the mountains start shaking, okay? But make sure that as you join these various groups that have a tie to your interest, that you begin sharing things that are going to be of interest. And I will tell you, it's amazing how you can start building your network that way as well. Okay? You don't have to join obviously 53, but if you could maybe pick out 5 groups, and I would encourage you to start out small. You know, don't try to tackle the whole world until you kind of have a good feel for what you want to do. You know, go for 5 groups that, and you can search. There's a nice search engine that is with LinkedIn that would enable you to find other people. PRSA has one. I'm not sure if PRSSA does, but that might be worth checking out. So, okay, guys, I know I could go on, but I want to stop here. That kind of gives you most of the basics. Any questions or comments, or maybe an area that I have not covered that would be helpful for you? Or are you just so burned out, the pizza's almost gone, and you've had a long day, it's like, Mark, I'm out of here. So,
Well, I do a lot of like ad design, and is that something like proposed for like, hey, check out my new latest ads, or is that just not?
you know, Rebecca, that's a good question. You know, I don't know to that end. You could try it. LinkedIn keeps on experimenting with things that you can add. The only thing I would do is if it's been something that's been actually published, you know, if you could pull up the URL from, say, a magazine or from a website that has that feature, that speaks a little bit louder than just actually putting up, you know, saying a rough of it or whatever. Any questions? Back row, anybody back there? You're just happy to be here? Okay, good. All right. Ladies, anybody here? Anybody? All right. Well, thank you all again so much for the invitation. And I'll make this offer to you all only. So anybody who was not here tonight, sorry, they don't get the special offer. If you've already got a LinkedIn site, and after hearing this, and you're all pumped up, and you're going to take what little pieces left, and you're going to rush and put your creativity on the screen this evening. If at some point you would like me to critique it, I would be more than happy to do that. Probably the best way to do that is send me an email, and it's just like everybody else around here. Send me an email and say, hey Mark, just got my LinkedIn done. Would you want to follow me on Twitter? I will follow back, but I'll be more than happy to do that for you all. So I promise I won't be anybody else. But I'll give you a real good critique on it. You know, if there's something I think is really great, I'll tell you this is really great. If it's really bad, I'll say, boy, you know, that section above is really great. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you all again. Appreciate the invitation.
So this is like our last official meeting of the semester. And I'm pretty sure all of our officers, except for maybe one or two, are graduating. So we do need to have officer elections probably like the 3rd or 4th week of April. Does Tuesday work better for you guys than Wednesdays or Thursdays? Is there a day that is anyone interested in running for offices? We really, we usually do meet at Wednesdays at 5. Tuesday work better for Mark's schedule. I mean, we can be here at Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. Anybody out there?
What's everybody
Tuesdays?
thinking?
Wednesday.
Wednesday is better, or Tuesday? Wednesday?
What time?
We usually do 5. Is that okay? We can leave it a little earlier, a little later. Okay. So hopefully we'll get all you guys, yes, email, if you're not on thing, we'll probably add you and then hit you guys with a ton of emails to come to our elections meeting.
Is anyone interested, like, in potentially running for an office, or just so we can, like, jot your name down and send you guys some information, like, that's
It'll be like
not
a little
listing.
sheet to fill out.
Yeah.
Do you have to run for a full
You're
year?
interested? No, you don't have to. You don't have to. run for
We
a
might
full-
like
graduated.
we have a lot of people that do just pass spring semester, this semester.
I'm interested.
Okay,
Is your
cool.
email on this?
Yes.
Okay, I'll email it to you. Yes. Okay.
Well, anybody else, if you decide that you're interested in running for an office, just email one of us, or shoot us a message on Twitter or whatever.
Harmless,
It's
really not like.
It's fun, it's not like super difficult,
You pay,
it's
yeah, like
voicemail for us to pay yet, because you're waiting for like next year.
Do what? Do what you
I
just
don't think so. She said if she hasn't paid her dues yet, because she's waiting for next year, because she's so.
Yeah. There's quite a few people that we kind of miss, and I said just hang on till next year. So yeah, don't
Yeah.
worry about that at all.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Cool, well, thank you guys for coming.
I think that our speaker definitely helps.
Here, guys, I'll give you all a card. Just